everyone. Welcome back to Biters, the weekly podcast about The Walking Dead and all things zombie, brought to you by Southgate Media Group, the podcasting empire, as well as Tweaked Audio and Entertainment Earth, our two sponsors. I am one of your hosts, Jeff Marsick, a screenwriter and comic book writer of the independent comic book Z-Girl and the Four Tigers.
And I am Kirk Manley, illustrator and designer and artist of said independent comic book Z-Girl and the Four Tigers.
We did a little change up in the intro this week, trying to make sure we don't forget about our sponsors on the tail end of. We want everybody to hear about them, as well as Southgate Media Group. We always leave them till the last, so brought them up front this time.
Yeah, people should definitely, listeners should definitely be checking out some of the other shows at Southgate Media. It's just, it's mind-boggling how fast they're growing and how many different incredible podcasts they have. You know, just everything from Doctor Who to whatever latest show you're into. Pretty much, if you're into it, they're doing something on it.
I think they're starting. We're starting a DC Universe one where we're talking about DC.
I'm working on a logo for that right now, and the other one that was cool is they've got them on stuff that's not necessarily media related. Well, I shouldn't say media related, but TV or movie, like the one on Pinheads podcast, which is about basically about Pinterest, which is like freaking my favorite internet thing in the whole world. I mean, it's just talk about a time suck. I was just gonna say, talk about a huge distraction for me. I could get lost in there. I'm like on it all the time. But anyway,
some people, man, they're posting. There's so much awesome stuff on there, and I just don't know where people find this stuff. Mind blowing.
And the thing that's become sad is that I've got, I don't know, at this point, 9,000 pins or something, and it's like, even when I go back to try and reference, use it for reference, it's like there's just too much to look through, Right. So it's a double-edged sword, I guess. You gotta, you really gotta refine it in terms of the way you organize the boards. But anyway, cool podcast, cool idea for a podcast. Just one of many that are at Southgate Media, SMG.
And I also do another podcast with Scott Malkus. We do normally we do American Horror Story. The podcast is called Disturbed, but since the latest season of American Horror Story is basically it's over, and we're waiting for the next one to start. Scott Malkus and I are doing Comrades, which is the podcast about the Americans.
Oh yeah.
So if you like that show, check out our podcast.
I've never watched that show, but I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Now that Breaking Bad is done.
Breaking Bad, man, that's just the best. It's just the best. One of our friends sent, did you watch the mix of season 1 and 2? Someone did a musical mix of the Breaking Bad using scenes from a series not episodes, but seasons 1 and 2. I don't know, did you watch that?
No, I missed it.
Oh, it's really funny. You should check it out. Go back through and check it out because it's great. And the best, of course, is what's his partner?
Oh, Jesse.
Jesse's unbelievable. It's worth it just for Jesse's part. But anyway, I ramble.
You wanted to mention the Twitter and
we've been starting a tradition here that we've done for the last couple episodes, and we will continue through the rest of the season doing live tweeting during the show.
It's been 3 episodes, so it's officially a tradition.
That's right. Absolutely. And I guess the important thing is that you follow at Biters Podcast on Twitter, or you can follow at BatmanKM, which is mine, or yours is now at J Marsick, right?
Yep. I changed mine because it just got too confusing trying to explain it to people. My old one.
And we tweet funny stuff and observation. We try not to do spoilers, but it's really an enjoyable way to interact with all sorts of fans all over the country as they're also watching the show. So definitely want people to check that out. Don't forget to write in any of your comments or opinions on this podcast or anything that we've said or about the show, about The Walking Dead, to biterspodcast@gmail.com, or post comments on the Facebook page. We love hearing from people, and definitely we'll shout you out here on the show and read your comments.
Yeah, and you definitely want to be following Kirk. If you're on Twitter, you definitely want to be following Kirk at BatmanKM, because Kirk's trying to start another tradition here, which I think you've done one so far, maybe two, where he does a piece of artwork for each of the episodes.
There was season premiere. I did a big poster-like version that had everybody in it, kind of, and then I also did the Michonne as Lone Wolf and Cub. And then this past week, it was Team Abraham. So I'm working on Team Daryl now, and hopefully before the end of the week, I'll have that up for people to check out. And if you follow along, you'll know when that's up.
And we get all geeky excited when like you tweeted it out to Michael Cudlitz and I think Gimple as well.
Well, no, it was the Cudlitz and the two actors that played Eugene and
Christian Serratos or whatever her name is.
And they were very, very generous. They responded. They forwarded. They retweeted it and favorited it, and that got a lot more interest in it, and it really burned around the Twitterverse for a while. So that was cool.
So we were all excited. We're like, "Woohoo! We got retweeted!" So we're trying to. My goal is to make Kirk the unofficial official artist of the TV show.
Amen. I hope you're successful.
I know, me too. I'm trying to ride your coattails. So this week, this is the third episode of the back half, or no, fourth episode of the second half of season 4. This was interesting
episode
because
12.
So this was interesting because Walking Dead beat the Olympics 3 weeks in a row in the key demographic of the 18 to 49 group, but it couldn't beat the Oscars.
Wow.
The key demo at the 9 o'clock, from 9 to 10, 8.1 million viewers in that demographic who are watching Walking Dead versus 15.25 million who are watching the Oscars.
That's sad.
Yeah, especially since it was boring. Those Oscars were horrible.
Well, it's just like there's so many award shows now, and they all get this huge attention on TV that by the time the Academy Awards come around, it's like it's all the same movies, it's all the same actors, and it just doesn't hold the weight anymore, in my opinion.
Well, the Academy Awards, like this year, was pretty much, if you watched it, there weren't any surprises at all. There was no nail biting. It was pretty much across the board. Who won was expected to win. Ellen was, the host. I think hosting that show is just an awful gig because you can't be yourself.
I think of the hosts of recent, she's doing a very good job. I mean, I think she's brought, she brings, I've watched bits and pieces of it, and, I like the way that she's brought some of her kind of TV talk show hosting qualities to it, like going out into the audience, and the selfie was funny and stuff like that. But overall, yeah, I think it's a tough gig.
Yeah, this was, they definitely had her reined in. She wasn't, it's the Ellen of the TV show is a lot funnier, a lot more.
Well, those people, they want to have fun poked at them, but they don't want to hurt. You know what I mean?
Right.
they're obviously much more fragile than they'd like you to believe.
Well, the entire show too is just a chaotic mess.
Yeah.
Masquerading as like this big, for case in point, they brought up a point that this is the 75th anniversary of The Wizard of Oz. And yet they didn't make a big deal out of it, except just to show like Liza Minnelli and Judy Garland's other two kids.
Looks like she was hit by a truck. Poor Liza.
Well, I mean, it's people were
how old is she
jumping
now?
on.
She like 125.
Jesus. Wow.
Sorry. I'm not a big Liza fan.
Well, people were dogpiling on Kim Novak as well.
You know, now that I understand, but I've seen some people coming to her defense, and I'm on board with the defense. I think.
Wait, so wait, I'll defend Kim Novak, but nah.
Well, and here's why. Because Kim Novak,
yeah,
but here's why. Because what I was reading is like Kim Novak's history is, I mean, she was this sex symbol who was never really allowed or accepted on a dramatic level, you know, and really struggled always under the shadow of Marilyn Monroe and some of the other superstar sex symbols. And so, you know, but it was her whole career was all about her looks. No one ever took her seriously. And then here she is now, what, in her 80s, I think. 81. And they invite her to come on the show. She hasn't been on since 1996. She's probably terrified that she's going to look like hell. So she obviously went out to some, you know, second-rate doctor who pumped her full of, you know, Botox and made her look like a sad, you know, pathetic thing. But I don't know.
That's how that. Good pairing. See, when she was up there, she definitely seemed spaced, like not there. Yeah. But her pairing with McConaughey seemed to be a perfect gentleman with her. So it was.
But you know what? His acceptance speech, what a douche. I'm sorry.
Well, would you have expected any different from Matthew McConaughey?
Yes, I did. All
right.
First of all, he didn't say one thing about AIDS victims. His whole freaking movie was about that. He didn't thank any of the rest of the cast or the people that made the movie with him. And then thirdly, he's telling us that his hero is himself.
Oh yeah.
Give me a break. What the heck was that all about? So, I don't know.
All right, well, going back to the numbers.
Yes, back to the numbers. Sorry, we got a little distracted. I think we got hit by the same truck that hit Liza.
Oh, my Lord. I think Liza Minnelli just stopped listening to our show. So, 12.6
Liza fans.
12.6 million viewers watch Walking Dead this week, which is pretty much 12.6.
That's fantastic.
Pretty much the same. So it's off like 3% week over week, which is no big deal.
Going against the Oscars, I think that's fantastic.
40.1 million watch the Oscars.
For how many? 40?
40. And the other thing too is that Walking Dead pretty much owns the Twitterverse when it comes to Sunday nights, except this week when so the numbers. This is actually pretty interesting. So 2.8 million people wrote 11.2 million Oscar-related tweets. Okay, so this was seen by like almost 14 million people. And then if you go down like the top 5, Nielsen now does ratings of the shows as well as Twitter. So 2.8 million people rating 11.2 million. Compare that to Walking Dead that had 194,000 people writing 439,000 tweets. I mean, that was just crazy.
Yeah. Well, you know, I saw another interesting article about that, and one person's analysis was that, you know, everybody's giving props to Twitter and saying, you know, what an amazing coup this was for them and a great PR thing and what it says about, you know, the power of Twitter. But their point was what it really says is you know, what power there still is in that ancient old medium of television, and that the reason that Twitter blew up was because people were watching the Oscars on TV.
Right.
You know, a 50-year-old media vehicle. And then because of that, they started tweeting because, you know, she was doing the selfies and everything else. So that wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been a TV thing, you know.
Well, especially when she basically baited the viewers when she said, okay, I'm going to take this, we're going to take this picture and we're going to try to set a record, a Twitter record.
I retweeted it. I'll admit I retweeted it. I helped.
All right, so those are the numbers this week.
If Liza Minnelli had asked, though, I wouldn't have done it.
I don't know where the hate for Liza comes from.
I'm just going with I'm just taking advantage of it.
Kurt's got some repressed anger for Liza Minnelli.
That's right. I was traumatized as a child by the Wizard of Oz, so I hold it against her mother.
All right.
And episode 12 still. How many headshots?
I'm going to give it 1.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to give it 4.5.
Wow.
Damn.
Oh, this ought to be an interesting discussion.
This could go to fisticuffs. Watch out.
I don't know how we can hit each other over Skype, but all right.
All right, man.
All right, so let's start off with we'll start off as we always do with the good.
And am I starting? You want me to start?
You know what, let me start because mine might be shorter than yours.
Well, let's see. If you gave the whole episode 1, your good should be no more than at least 1 sentence. There wasn't any, period.
No, I had 2 scenes that I liked, and one that I'm going to say. One, actually, there's 3 I like, but I have to save one for my, my zombie hit. So that's off the board. So I liked the opening teaser. I liked the teaser part. I liked that the whole thing with the trunk in the car.
Yeah.
When they're running. I mean, that was intense. Jumping in, and it was something we hadn't seen before. There wasn't any retread there. Jump in the trunk. Tie a rag around it and kind of hold it down. And I liked how there was, you hear the horde or, it sounded like a big horde, big herd, coming by. And, Daryl, you just love Daryl. Daryl's just sitting there with the crossbow ready. Beth is, what I liked about her in that scene is that she's not like, oh my God, or like tears or anything. She's got a knife in her hand and she's just looking around like she's ready. Right. These were 2 veterans of this environment who were just ready. And, the way that was filmed, that was an intense scene. Then they wake up they get up the next day and everything's gone. It just felt like there was something missing on the ground, like you see all the what looked like blood or something, and I rewound it a couple times because it seemed like a body had been taken or something. It just seemed a little too
you mean at the car?
Mowed down. Yeah, it was something like the next day, but there wasn't. But then they get out of the trunk and then they start taking the random things. The rear view mirror and a piece of glass off the and then Daryl grabs the hubcaps. I'm like, what? Is this like, are we doing a crossover with Sanford and Son?
Are they opening up a junk store?
Yeah. And then when we come back from commercial and we see them doing like survivalist work, I thought that was cool. That was something we hadn't seen before, and that's an element that's really missing. And I've harped on it before. I think that's an element that's missing in all this. Where it's too much focus on run to a house and get 112 ounces of pudding, or canned goods or whatever. They're going to run out of that stuff, and being able to live off the land and do the survivalist stuff like Daryl did, that was really cool. I really liked that scene.
I totally agree.
And then later on, there was a part. It was as much as I like Daryl, I didn't like him for most of this episode. I don't like him. His calling up of Rick. Season 2 Rick. But later on, when they're at the house and the zombie, after he shoots the zombie and he's getting kind of bringing some attitude to Beth and that whole scene. And then when he looks at the zombie, and then there's that moment of breakdown where like it all makes sense. We all get it. All of a sudden, I fully understood why he's mopey and quiet and dismissive of her when he talks about the governor. When he says the governor came right to our front gate. I could have done something. I could have been.
Well, he says I stopped. I should have kept looking for him. Remember, because he stopped looking for him, and Michonne was still looking, and he was like giving her a hard time. Yep. Now he regrets that.
And that was a very powerful moment, and I like that he, again, it was Norman Reedus. Man, every time they spotlight this guy, he just shows, when he first came out into the show, he was just another actor playing a redneck, scumbag. But the more he's developed, more the writers have allowed him to develop, the more Norman Reedus has brought such depth to the character and how he brings them out that it was believable, and you're like, okay, it all made sense why he's acting the way he is. Yeah, and I forgave him a little bit, But
totally agree with you. And I think when I see scenes like this, I'm just echoing what you said. Basically, it becomes clear that they underutilize him.
yes.
You know, they need to give him more spotlights. He's a fantastic actor, and the character is rich, and he does a great job with it. Totally agree with you.
So that was my good.
Well, I basically I don't want to echo everything, so I'll try to bring something different. But I agree that the quiet opening was fantastic. The trunk sequence was fantastic. The whole episode overall reminded me of Clear, which is probably one of my favorite episodes of the show. I love that it was just the two of them. There was no other stuff. It was just totally concentrated on the two of them. And I think this is the first episode of the entire series where we've ever had an entire episode be just two characters. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. I love that they start off separated and suffering, just going through the motions, surviving, but not living. You know what I mean? Not sharing, not connected. They're just there. And then by the end, they're together, they're connected, they're hopeful. To me, it was just a fantastic transition from beginning to end of that episode. Again, no words, as I think you pointed out as well. Those cold openings or quiet openings, I guess is probably the best terminology. Really adds to the tension, really adds to the horrific nature of what's going on. I loved also, just to add something a little more to the trunk scene, the way they edited that was fantastic too. At first, it was like I didn't understand what was going on. It was almost like I thought there were these abrupt cuts going on inside the trunk. But then I realized what was happening. We were getting shots of them over durations of time. So they were in there, and the herd starts to come, and then it gets bigger, and then it gets bigger, and then there's a quiet. And then it comes again, and then it gets quiet again, and then it comes, and it was like all of a sudden it became terrifying because this was almost like this endless, how big was this freaking herd?
Right.
It just kept going. You know what I mean? And I think the editing made that, cause you didn't see him. Another thing too is here was like Hitchcockian we've talked about before, what you don't see is so much more powerful than what you see, necessarily because your mind fills it. But we never saw one zombie in that scene.
Right.
But yet your mind is picturing hundreds of thousands of them. So that was awesome. I agree that the whole picking up the stuff, I was like confused as well as to what that was about. And then when you see them using it, it was just, and how they were just, again, it nailed home for me how they had just become this surviving machine. They were like hardened. They knew exactly what they needed to take. And they just were used to doing this. This was their world now,
Just as an aside, the director of this episode was Julius Ramsey, who's normally he's been an editor on this series. He's done 18 episodes as an editor. This was actually his first directing gig on The Walking Dead. According to his IMDb page, he did a short movie back in 2008. So for all intents and purposes, this was his first directing gig. Wow.
Well, I think he did a great job.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you say that because you can see there are a couple other sequences too, but definitely within that trunk, the benefit of being an editor, and seeing, understanding creative ways to show time movement, was really cool. Another good I thought was the whole golf course country club thing. How horrific inside it was. It was like walking into like a hell, you know what I mean? And, I think that it was funny how Daryl instinctively starts to like grab the cash and the jewelry.
Yeah,
that's where he is now. You know what I mean? He's back to where he was. He's not connected. He has no family. He's back in a horrible world. He's just worrying about surviving. And they come into this place that just kind of epitomizes that. And he starts to kind of almost reflexively. That's not even a word, Kurt. It's just a reflex.
Reflexively is a word.
Reflexively is a word? Yeah. Reflexively is a word? It is. I thought it was a way of stretching or something. But anyway, I thought that was cool, and that she pointed it out to him was funny.
Did you see what they burned at the end when they went to light the house up? It was a stack of cash.
Oh yeah. That was absolutely, and that was not just randomly chosen. That was
Right.
purpose,
Right.
because it felt to me like, this was partly what Daryl would have been doing if he hadn't gotten away from Merle and had teamed up with the prison crew and Team Rick. He would be out, ransacking places, finding pockets of, rich survivors and killing them and having, just being a total freaking nightmare. You know what I mean? Because that's what his world was. And that's, how torn up he was inside. And I think this whole golf course this whole country club just epitomized that. This is, and I think that was, you could see it in him, and he was like escalating as he went further and deeper into this hell.
He kept evolving back to his old ways.
Exactly.
It made me think of, remember at the beginning of the season, when we're at the prison and he's got basically like rock star status. And people come, hey, Mr. Dixon, can I get your booze?
Exactly. Yeah.
And he's just really uncomfortable about it.
Right.
The conversation that he has with Beth when he talks about where his upbringing or where he came from, basically, and all of that started to make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
All those episodes ago, because here was a guy who basically he had no worth. Now all of a sudden he's a valuable member of this, and you could just right from the jump he was never comfortable in that role in that position.
Yep. Absolutely. The lighting in that sequence in the country club where they're going through the back rooms and the kitchens and trying to find stuff. It was so well done. It just looked to me like a video game.
Yeah.
I mean, the flashlight lighting, and it just added to that whole tension. I mean, I felt like I was playing Left 4 Dead, it was just, really, really, really cool way to do that sequence. The busted bottle up against the zombie head was classic, man. When she's fighting off that guy and all she's got is the bottle and she's like smashing this on his head. Of course, it doesn't do anything. So then she starts stabbing him in the head with it and it's not doing anything. That was wild.
Well, again, how horrific is it for the survivors of this world where you try to do the right thing. You know that, hey, if I die, I'm going to come back. So I'm going to off myself and just, to prevent it. And here you are, you don't hang yourself well. And now you're alive on the vine, just kind of swinging.
At first I thought that was what was going on. But then as the scene progressed, I began to think that what we really were seeing, as I was saying before about this, would be what he would be doing with Merle if he hadn't meet up with Team Rick. Those guys were hung I think.
Because of that one that you see later on?
The mannequin, right. And it was clear that, these people had been holed up in here, thought they would be safe at their country club, were trying to wait for help, and some pack of wackadoos came across them and just terrorized them,
That group from the house that
could be, and then I just thought that, as this scene progressed, then Daryl he just can't take it anymore. And he just stops and he turns around and he just starts beating these physical manifestations of his inner demons. You know what I mean? That's really what I saw. You know what I mean? And he just starts beating them and beating them and beating them with the golf clubs and everything. And, that was just his rage. Again, just an amazing, performance, I think, by Norman Reedus on that. And then, of course, the ninth hole 4 golf club takedown was just outrageous, man. When he hauls off like he's at a tee and takes that head off. And, of course, it wasn't lost on me that, the brains go all over Beth's new sweater, which is, kind of a metaphor for how his anger and his rage is just directly, affecting her, So that was.
Well, see, I took that differently. I took that as, first of all, as soon as that happened, I'm in my house. I shout at the TV. That's why we can't have nice things. but for me, that was a little heavy, but it was Beth. You saw her in the golf in the pro shop, and she finds new clothes, right? She puts on this nice sweater, and it's like, and then you know, it was one of those yanks back down to reality that, hey, you know,
Right.
you can try to dress up, you know,
Right.
in this fairyland that you live in, that we're all going to be okay. And you know, she gets sprayed just to remind her that no, this is reality here, not
But
what's
the
in your
great thing
head.
too in that scene though is that she doesn't back down. She doesn't like become a blubbering idiot because of it. She doesn't. She is. We're watching her change, you know, dramatically as a character, and instead she's pushing back on him. You know, she's not taking his crap. She's not giving up on her quest. She's not, you know, being derailed by the fact that he just splattered her with brains.
Right.
You know. At first, you know, when they started on the whole quest for the drink, I kind of was like, this is kind of a silly, you know, silly thing. You know what? First of all, why the hell would you ever want to get drunk in the apocalypse? You know what I mean? It's like, talk about asking for trouble. But then it became really clear to me, I think, you know, how important this was because of what it represented for her. You know, it was something her father wouldn't, you know, kept from her, and now he was gone. It was kind of what adults do. You know what I mean? So it was just, I think, part of her plus also she was trying to say, look, we need to not just survive. We need to live, and we need to kick back and, you know, have some sort of enjoyment periodically and connect, you know what I mean? And that's what I think that drink represented, all of those things to her. So then it became much more believable for me. You looked like you were going to respond to that. You don't agree?
No, that's your opinion.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
letting you have it.
So anyway, I mean, you know, she sees herself, I think, as this one progresses, this episode, you know, is not needing protection anymore. I mean, you got the whole sequence where she says, I can look out for myself. And then he even said, you know, she's like, well, you didn't help me with that. And he's like, well, you said you could protect yourself, and you did. You know, I mean, it was just, there was a lot of growth going on with her, I think, in terms of that. And she didn't want to be treated as a kid anymore. She didn't want to be, you know, and that was part of what was going on with him too. You know, I mean, he kept looking at her as this liability, cause he was back in that survival mode, you know, and she's like, I'm not a liability. You know what I mean? So I thought that was really cool. I also think it's going to be very interesting, and I hope they do something with it. But if Maggie and her get back together, how her development changes their relationship together. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, because they'll be, in my opinion, they'd be on equal footing. So let's see. I thought that also in that sequence there was pretty powerful symbolism when she picks up the cup to drink and she can't get it clean. You know, it's kind of like got blood in it and everything else. It just you know, that whole, you know, here she'd struggled to get to this quest to get this drink, and then it was just like it just wasn't what she thought. It wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right thing. She couldn't, you know, it was just a total disappointment. And I think that's when we see Daryl start to transform. For me, the whole transformation of him started there when he walks over, picks up the bottle and smashes it on the ground. Because she's like struggling with this at this moment. And he kind of like steps up and decides he's going to help her. And so he destroys the bottle, says you shouldn't be drinking that crap anyway. I'm sorry, but I would drink schnapps over moonshine any day. but anyway, and then
Kirk wouldn't be looking for a cup. He'd be looking for a nipple to like put on the end and just be suckling from
that's
it.
Right. I want an IV with a little rack I can wheel around. But anyway, so those two sequences were my good.
Okay, so my bad is basically pretty much all the rest of the episode that I didn't like.
Everything else you didn't talk about so far was bad. I got it.
You know what? I feel like after you just talked about all the stuff, I feel like Joe Pesci and My Cousin Vinny. Yeah, everything he just said is bullcrap. Paraphrase because this is a family show, but
that's right.
Yeah. All right, where do I begin? The whole quest to find, to go out and say, you know, I'm going to go get a drink. I thought, you know, as you said, when it first came up, when it first happened, you're like, oh, this is silly.
Yeah.
And it just got sillier from there. I understand that it's I understand what you're talking about, and I get it. The whole like almost like not rite of passage, but that moment, moving from a child to an adult, having a drink is that moment. I get that, except that we've not had a moment like, when was the last time somebody had a drink outside of Bob? When was the last time somebody had a drink on this show? Right?
Yeah, the alcoholic has to be excluded from this.
And Daryl's got to have flashbacks to when Bob almost killed them all. In his quest for his Chivas Regal or whatever he had grabbed. But okay, I'll let it go with okay. She's just a kid. Again, she's acting like a kid. It's tough for me to see Emily Kinney as a kid because
I know.
I think she's like a 30-year-old.
She's like a little pixie. Yeah.
Oh, she's so cute too. But so I can understand Daryl. Kind of understand Daryl. Just like, all right, as he's moping around, just giving her enough leash to hang herself. But getting to the country club, there's one thing in writing and in storytelling that if you have an element, whether it's a character or it's a situation, if you have an element that you can take out of the narrative, you can take it out, and it doesn't change your narrative at all meaningfully, it's a superfluous element. You don't need it. And for me, the whole country club thing, there were some interesting parts in there, but it didn't do anything. It didn't add anything. She's a liability. She's like a whiny, petulant little child still, and she can try to box above her weight class. And I'm gonna take a drink.
But I think that was the point. To me, that was the point. In the beginning of the episode, up through there, she is a little bit petulant, spoiled, bratty, and that's how he's seeing her. And he's selfish, survival's focused, uncaring, unfeeling machine killer, and the two of them are separate, not connected, and bouncing off each other in negative ways. And then they go into that place and go through that experience. And by the end, they come out and they're a little bit closer. And then by the end, they're, connected again.
Okay. I get it, but I'm not sold on it. And
well, it was a quest. They had to go somewhere. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, they had to do something because it was a boring episode. Otherwise, just sitting in the. So you basically just said we have to put this. What are we going to do? They can't just sit in a house. They'll go to a country club.
But that's why we read stories. That's why we watch stories.
I will say though, the one thing that I got out of this episode is that Daryl is the Casey Jones of this group. Anybody who's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan knows that Casey Jones is the human friend of the Turtles.
Right.
And
where's the hockey mask, right?
Right. All of his weapons are sports gear. So we've got Daryl with a crossbow. Then he's got I'm pretty sure it was a 3-iron. Then he's got darts. Holy cow. I've never seen anybody so accurate when they're hate throwing darts,
Yeah, but I have it down as one of my little side follow-up end notes is that clearly, actually, no, I have it as part of my bad. Daryl clearly has never played darts in his life. Because of the trick of the camera, he hits his target every time. But did you see this thrown to the side and he's like all twisted? Yeah. I mean, that's not how you throw darts. I mean, come on, give me a break.
But, okay, so once we get out of there, we get back to the house. First of all, for somebody who, what is Beth weigh? Maybe $110. She hasn't had real food in her body for, I don't know, however many months, and she's never had a drink in her life. Dude, she probably drank me under the table, the amount of moonshine that she sucked down. She should have been blotto after she went through that first, cup.
I was watching though. They were both doing very little sips. I wonder if they did that on purpose in order to so people wouldn't say, "Oh, they would have been blotto,"
I didn't like the "I've never" game.
That was a little uncomfortable at the start, but I like where it took us.
Okay, so.
But I don't think it needed the game. They could have just been having a conversation.
Right. Now, it made me think of, so there's this mystery behind Daryl, right? And what did you do before all this started? What do they call it? Not the awakening. There's a term that they use.
Oh, for when the zombies, the rising? Do they call it rising?
I can't remember what it is. But anyway, so everybody wants to know like what he does, and there's all these theories. You know, what was that one episode when they went to the store with Bob, right? And didn't he think that someone guessed that he was a detective? You know, he might have been a cop or something.
No, the boyfriend, Beth. Oh, that's very interesting that you point that out. That's very cool. It was Beth's boyfriend who was doing that game with him.
Yeah. That's right.
That's very interesting. And he even says in this episode about you've had two boyfriends and remember? Yeah. No, that's a good observation.
So
even if it was an accident. You're supposed to say, no, I meant that.
I did mean that. And I'm getting to my point, but you keep interrupting. So when they're out on the porch and the whole revelation or the reveal of what Daryl did before wasn't a surprise to me. I was hoping, what he gave us, that he was basically, led around by the nose by, his brother Merle. I expected that. What I wanted was I wanted him to have been doing something else. I don't know, auto mechanic or teacher or whatever it is. And then he had gotten sideswiped by his association, by his relationship with Merle. I wanted something like that, as opposed to what I was already predicting. And I didn't like how it felt very forced how this came out. And what I think about is I think about Saving Private Ryan. I think about how, first half of the movie, 3/4 of the movie, everybody wants to know what Tom Hanks' character, what'd you do before the war? And they've got a bet going between the guys. And they're like, oh, he was this or this. And when they get the new, guy in their group, they're like, yeah, go ask the captain what he did before the war. And he doesn't say anything. And it's this mystery, and it's really cool. Up until the situation where they basically have guns on each other, and it's all gone to crap. And he's like, hey, what's the bet on me? What's the wager? And then he lays it out there. I was a teacher. And everybody's like, holy crap, And I think that a reveal, something more along those lines, for Daryl's background, I would have liked something more like that. Maybe it's because I just love the character, and I'm, I kind of have I'll admit I have a little bit of a hetero crush on Norman Reedus. But
a bromance,
yeah. But I wanted a reveal that was a little bit more like that. His whole interaction with Beth this episode, oh my gosh, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, because I was like, for me, there was so much sexual tension between the two of them. I was like, oh, please, dear God, don't kiss. Don't kiss. Outside, when, he shoots the zombie and he's getting all manic. When they get like real close face to face, I was like, oh, no, dear God, no, don't do it. And then she gives him a hug, she wraps him up, and I was like, okay, we dodged that bullet. And then later on, when they're sitting on the porch, and she's like, you'll miss me when I'm gone, Daryl Dixon. And I was like, oh my God, no, don't. And that was just, again, that's just her being, a teenager and being this kid. And I don't know. I didn't like that. I already said how I thought the country club was kind of, a superfluous. It was just a kind of a waste of time, just something to do for a few minutes. I guess I should have added that I did like. Well, no, I'm saving that for my zombie kill. But yeah, I didn't.
I get it.
Didn't do it for me.
For me, just to respond to the specific issue of his background. I understand what you're saying. I certainly can empathize with that. Cause I had the same thing. I kind of saw that coming, and I kind of felt like that was probably what his background was, but it was good to get confirmation of it. And more importantly, the way that they did it, for me, it demonstrated why, cause remember, I don't know if you remember an episode or two back when we were reviewing, it was right. I think it was either the season premiere, mid-season premiere, or the one after. I'm not sure which one had Beth and him in it, but I was like very disappointed that all of a sudden now he was back to being this closed off, hard-nosed, survivalist, uncaring, badass. And I said, we've seen that already. They did that with Michonne. And, I just didn't, I wanted to see him do something different with that. But this to me made that all okay. and realistic. And the reason is because this is a guy who now we know was living basically in a zombie apocalypse before it happened.
Right.
And had no connections, had no family, had no love, and was just miserable. And he met the Team Rick. He got to the prison. He started to build relationships, and all of a sudden he was able to get out from underneath Merle. Merle was no longer on his back, and he blossomed, and he felt connection, and he became more whole and happy. And all, the falling of the prison and the loss of all these people, Herschel, who has become like a father to him in some ways, and all these other people just sent him spiraling back into where he was. And I think that, what this episode did is show us why, and explained why, and then it showed Beth bringing him back from the edge. I mean, we start off really with Beth in this episode struggling to try and get Daryl to be her friend and kind of help her emotionally with what she's dealing with. And we end up with Beth becoming Daryl's friend, helping him deal with what he needs to get out emotionally. And as a result, it just, it brings the two of them together, and they are now this badass team, and also they're filled with hope. They're not going to focus and fall back into that back. She's not going to let him fall back into that. It was I just thought it was beautiful. I thought it was really, really well done. So, and it wouldn't have worked if they had given him some sort of legitimate background, because then you would have been like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would he be so torn up, by losing the prison, So.
Right. And I get that, but I just wish that there was a little bit more depth to, and I'm totally fine with him. We know his relationship with Merle, and we know that, that's basically, that's a huge chunk of his life and his upbringing. I get that. I just wish that there was a little bit more depth to, to his past than basically what we had all surmised was his past.
Right. I understand.
All right, so what's your bad of the episode?
My bad, I really didn't have much. I mean, I tried to pick out that, Daryl did a shitty job of throwing darts. I would go with peach schnapps over moonshine every time. And I think there was a bottle of wine on one of the tables that Beth passed. And I don't know if that was, they were making a comment there, or if that was just, an accident of set production. But
well, it's probably Merlot, and Merlot is just so 1996. So
that's right. So yeah, really, I really didn't. I mean,
there are wine snobs in the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. So I just didn't have that. I just didn't have any clear bads. And my ugly good was pretty much what we already kind of talked about. I'll see if there's I think Norman, the last sequence, pretty much the whole last sequence from the drinking game on. I agree with you. I didn't like the drinking game. I don't know if they needed it. I think they probably felt like they had to have some sort of vehicle for her to start grilling him questions, as opposed to just having them sitting there and having her do it. But it did end up, I think, working as a tool to get to what set him off, which was her assumption that he had been in jail.
I just realized Walking Dead basically went back to the well 2 episodes in a row with the same gimmick, a game in order to flush out information. Last week it was Carl and Michonne,
yeah,
and then this week it was a drinking game.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and I don't think it was necessary. I think they could have just been talking, but it didn't, it didn't ruin it for me. But from his acting, man, Norman Reedus, from that point on, I couldn't keep my eyes off him. I mean, he was a shitty drunk, and when he gets up and takes a leak right there in the room, and he's just being obnoxious. I mean, it was just captivating to watch, and
brought back memories, didn't it?
Yeah, from actually last weekend, but no. Anyway, so that I just thought, and then the whole when he drags her outside, and the whole thing was showing her, it was just, when people are afraid, they get angry, and when they are, he was just he was clearly just terrified of and upset and torn by everything that he had lost, and feeling guilty for what he may have done to contribute to that. And he was just taking it out on her, and she just wasn't going to back down. And then as a result, they broke through, and I thought it was just really, really well done scene. I thought Emily Kinney did a fantastic job in that from that point on. I don't feel she's the greatest actress, but then, it may just be the writing, because she did a great job, I think, with the stuff after that. But it also, too, they were trying to make her seem a little bratty in the beginning. And that always puts me off. But that's probably what they wanted. I thought the backwards hug was great. It was perfect for kind of what you're talking about, because I think they didn't want to have there be too much of a romantic tension there, and I think a frontal hug would have potentially gone that way, so, right. The backwards hug was cool. It also, I think they're trying to say, as much as I'd like to see the two of them hook up, I think they're trying to build this as a brother-sister type of relationship.
Which I hope that would be, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where they're going. I love that she suggests that they burn down the building, to burn down his past. Again, part of that visual symbolic for something, non-emotional. And I just thought that was really cool. And, it kind of cemented them together. And, I liked that a lot. And though the episode didn't move the overall story, I'll give you that, and it didn't bring the groups any closer together at all, I think it really developed these two characters in my eyes. That, they became much richer, more complicated, and I hate to admit it, more important to me now. So now I have to worry about losing them. So, I would have had no problem 4 or 5 episodes ago if Beth got taken out, but now, I'm not going to be so happy about it if it happens. So damn you, Walking Dead.
Damn you for making me care.
That's right.
Well, I'm going to take the other side of that argument, and my ugly is Beth. And it's an ugly bad. She started the episode off so very strong. I thought. I mean, that whole survivalist thing, the way she carried herself in the car. It was. I was like, holy cow! We've gotten past. We talked. Before, I think it was the second episode of the season with the where we saw when she was narrating her diary, her voiceovering her diary.
Glad they didn't do that this episode.
I know, and they led us to believe that given the trailer, given the promo.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that.
You're right, they did.
And I was like, oh God, here we go again. So, dear diary, and so she started off so strong, and I thought, oh wow, we made a massive leap forward in her, and I get, we came back into Act 1. I get with her, kind of sitting there and, well, I'm in a camp, but it seemed like an old married couple. It's like we can't just sit in a camp all the time and just eat snake jerky or whatever she said. And then from that point on, she just devolved away from that strong female character that she was in the beginning. She devolved away back into the little girl that she is. I agree with you. I think that, and I think a lot of it is, I'm going to agree with you that I don't think she's a strong actress, but I also don't think that they really know where her place is. Like, she was basically devil's advocate in this episode just to draw out stuff about, this episode was all about Daryl. She was just there as a facilitator. It was about
both of them.
But she was a facilitator to bring out this stuff about Daryl, for Daryl to expunge his demons and get him back on track. She hasn't really changed.
But that was as much about her, because she needed to get connected with him. She needed to have connection with him, emotional connection with him, and not just be these untalking, walking survival machines. And that was crucial for her survival. Okay. And so she had to bring him out.
So if we look at the beginning of the episode and we look at the end of the episode, we see a change. We see a big change in character from Daryl. Daryl's unlocked himself. He's, removed his head from his butt, and he's back to the Daryl, he's back to the Daryl that the group needs, the strong character. So we get that change. How has she changed from the beginning of the episode to the end?
Well, I don't think she's a whiny brat who's, wants to be taken care of and protected. She's now a mature adult who, feels she's an equal to him, and that they're now a team that's going to work together to, survive and move forward and hopefully find the rest of the group. That's how she changed for me. Because she does start off a little bit whiny and, and confrontational with him and standing out, being almost destructive. I want to go get a drink here in the middle of the zombie apocalypse, trying to survive. And she wants to go get a drink. What the hell? So, a little bit irresponsible and everything else. So I think by the end, that's completely flipped.
Okay. Well, I'm going to write this down, okay, because in 2 episodes, when she reverts back, I'm going to say I told you so.
No, I agree. If they don't keep with this, and that's why I mentioned the whole thing about Maggie, is that when they get back together with Maggie, they've got to, her dynamic in the group when they come back has to be different. If it's not, then this was a wasted episode for her. Maybe not for him, but for her.
And the best way should be that, Maggie comes back, after she picks up her wife, Glenn, and she, she'll start bossing orders around. I can see Maggie coming back and being that overbearing older sister again. And, protective, not necessarily overbearing, but protective. And, what we should see, if you're right about this episode, we should see and it's not just you. It is what we've seen over 2 episodes with Beth. We should see pushback from Beth in that.
I agree.
I'm a big girl now, and
write it down. If they don't do that, I'll be pissed too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely agree with you.
So all right. So let's see. Character of the week. You got 2 to choose from.
I had a couple other quick additional thoughts before we get to those things that didn't fit into our good, bad, and ugly. Did you notice the spoon Beth picks up?
Yeah, Washington D.C.
Yeah, I think that's a little foreshadowing, don't you think? Too blatant.
Yeah, I thought it was blatant, but at first I'm also looking at it going, how do you put food on that thing and eat off that? Peanut butter on that thing's got to be a nightmare to clean.
Yeah, good point. But more importantly, why did she keep it?
I don't know.
I mean, I could see her picking up and looking at it, and the camera focusing on it, and then her putting it down. But I thought it was interesting.
And there was a point I wanted to make too. So we've gone, I think, 3 episodes now in a row of basically, I want to start a new segment like stupid zombie tricks. So we saw you throw a Molotov cocktail, start a fire, zombies come running to the fire. There was something happened last week or a couple weeks ago that was kind of the balloon. Hang something shiny from a post and all the zombies go. Okay, so this week it's take a small rock. You don't even have to throw it far. Just kind of like lob it a couple feet away, and the zombies will go towards the noise.
When she's behind the tree.
She's behind the tree. I'd have chucked that thing like Brett Favre, but she was just kind of like dink.
That's good. That's a good point. Plus, the other thing too is it's like there's more to the attraction than just noise, supposedly, right? I mean, there's smell and there's and everything else. So, yeah.
Well, it's also kind of getting laughable that every time we see our group, they're always running. Man, they're running flat. They're breathing hard. They're sweating. They're running. Why are you running? Like, you can walk fast. You can speed walk and stay ahead of these things. Right?
And if you run, you're just going to run into another big mess of them.
All you're going from one herd to the next. Dude, just walk fast.
They call it herd jumping, herd hopping.
There was one zombie though. There was one extra playing a zombie who got a little too into his role. I'm trying to remember where it was, but it was when they were. It was the scene where they're in the room in the country club right before when he starts wailing on the zombies.
Right.
The first zombie through the door, that dude moved fast. I mean, he was like 4 times the speed of everybody else. He got taken down, and then they all started shuffling in.
I think he put the knife through his eye on that one, right?
Maybe him. He had a blue sweater, I think. Yeah. That dude was like.
They all had sweaters. They all had sweaters.
It's true. It is a country club.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. So the spoon. How about the zombies that came out of the woods for the fire? So I guess between this and the episode with Maggie's wife, Glenn, when he throws the Molotov to get them to go towards the fire, I guess they're really establishing that fire attracts them. That's kind of new. I don't know. Maybe they're setting that up for a particular reason. I don't know, but it seems kind of weird because that's never been a traditional canon for zombies. It's certainly not canon for the book.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting, but it's definitely, I noticed it. I mean, they made a point of they didn't have to bring zombies out of the woods by putting the fire, but I don't know. I guess it could be the noise too. Someone on Talking Dead, which was very good because both Norman Reedus and Emily Kinney were on, and it was good. But someone pointed out that in the cabin there's one shot where there's a poster in the background, and if it's of Boondock Saints.
Really?
And Boondock Saints is the cult film that Reedus did before Walking Dead, and
right.
He didn't even know it. He wasn't aware that someone had put it up, but someone on the set had put that up, and someone caught it.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it was
pretty
cool.
Yeah, I take it you've never seen
I have never seen it, but I've heard a lot about it, and I know
it's pretty good.
Is it good? I know there's talk of a sequel too, right? Or was there two?
There was a second one, yeah. Okay. Not as good as the first one.
Yeah, isn't that all usually the case? The only other thing I was going to say was that the herding. Remember we talked briefly last week about the herding, and that it seems like they're definitely trying to say that the zombies tend to pool together, and then those pools bump into others and become larger herds, and that's kind of the going thing, which I think allows them to have spaces of areas where you don't have many zombies, and then of course when the zombies do come on you, they're a bigger threat, so that's good for the show too. So I think that's part of why they're doing that. But also in the book, of course, when they start to head towards DC, now this might be a spoiler, so anybody who doesn't want to get spoiled about information from the comic, you might want to jump ahead. One of the coolest scenes is when Abraham and Carl and Rick are on a journey, or a quest, so to speak, from the group at one point, and they come across this herd. Remember that? Remember that sequence?
Yep.
They come over the top, and you look over this expanse, and all you can see for miles is zombies. And I thought they had kind of tried to do that scene earlier in the season when they go to the medical, the animal medical place. That seemed like they were trying to do that scene, but I'm wondering if they're building up even towards more, because that sequence when they're in the trunk really, to me, was like, this is an almost endless amount of zombies, hours worth of zombies walking by. And so that made me hopeful that they're still going to. I thought maybe we had already seen that sequence, is what I guess I'm trying to say, that was in the book, but I'm hoping we haven't, and that's still to come, because that'll be a powerful visual, I think.
Maybe the season finale.
Yeah.
Oh, look, we found Sanctuary. Oh, it's so great. And then there's an ocean of zombies between them and.
Yeah. Some people are wondering if because of the hints to Washington, because of Abraham coming in, and like now we see the spoon, that the fifth season will be about Washington. But I don't know. I'm beginning to think we're going to get the hunters, but we're not getting them this season. Or that the cliffhanger will be the hunters. And that'll bring us into next season. Then we'll go half of that, and then we'll start the journey into DC, with the end of the fifth season being, DC. That would be just my guess. Those are my only other comments. So, Zombie of the Week?
Zombie of the Week.
Zombie of the Week and Zombie Kill of the Week.
Well, my Zombie Kill of the Week is the, what I call the par 3 zombie in the in the room where Norman Reedus basically took his whole face off. The Zombie of the Week, I gotta give it to the hanging ones, because that was just pretty. I now I see your point, and it probably makes more sense that somebody strung them up.
Right.
I was taking it from, because we've seen it before where people have tried to kill themselves.
Yeah, and I did
the right thing.
I did too, and I think they wanted you to be kind of confused about that. I agree. That's how I saw it at first. But then when we see the zombie that's been cut up and put on the mannequin with the sign around its neck, you realize there's been more that's gone on in its place than what you thought.
Yeah.
I had the same. I had the hanging zombies as my zombie of the week, and Daryl. I call it Daryl on the 9th hole 4 golf club takedown. But but since you already picked that, I would say my next one would be the broken bottle to the head zombie.
Yeah.
That was gruesome, man, because she was just getting nowhere. It was just mush, Anyway, character of the week is definitely Daryl for me.
Definitely.
Granted, we only have 2 to choose from, but he gets my vote.
Yep.
Next week looks fantastic, but hard to tell, just from previews. But at least the sequence that I saw in I think it was a Talking Dead preview. And again, I'm just going to describe the sequence. So if that's a spoiler or people don't want to be spoiled by that, then
we'll see you next week.
Yeah. or just zip ahead a little. But did you see it?
I saw the trailer at the end of the episode. Yeah.
Did you see the extended sequence on? You didn't see it on Talking Dead or online yet?
No.
It's a bit of an extended sequence where it's Maggie, Team Maggie. I'm calling that group. And they're positioned themselves back to back. So there's 3 of them with their backs to each other, and it's all fog.
Yep.
And there's oh my gosh.
And what happens at the end of that trailer? The intimation of they intimate that something's going to happen to one of them.
Yeah.
But those are never anything to act on or to believe because none of those have come true so far. So
yeah. I thought that it looks really tense. So yeah, I think Bob, Tasha, right? Sasha, and Tyrese are all potential losses. I'm worried about. I think Bob was set up to be the one, and I think that Sasha just doesn't. She just doesn't have that big of a role. And Tyrese, I'm concerned about because of the storyline of the Hunters, as we've talked about before, and the fact that they've also now got between him, Daryl, and Abraham, they've got, a whole lot of badasses.
Well, Tyrese has already outlived his existence in the comic.
Well, he hasn't. I agree. He's gone beyond his existence in the comic, but he was introduced so much later in the TV show. In the comic, he was introduced almost at the beginning, I'd say about, quarter of the way in, and had a huge long run all the way through the prison. So I think they're trying to extend him a little bit more because of the fact that balance it out a little bit, but I don't know.
My money's on Bob.
Yeah, I definitely think Bob's going, but I'd be surprised if they keep Tyrese, Abraham, and Daryl too. And then since they just introduced Abraham, I see him sticking around. And you and I have talked about before that, if Daryl goes, there goes your female population of viewers.
Totally. Well, Tyrese has to stick around long enough to resolve the whole Carol.
That's
Carol
true.
Storyline.
But and again, they've really let me down in my opinion on Tyrese. They just. I think they put all of that Tyrese qualities from the comic into Daryl, and so I just feel like the poor guy that got the role there is Tyrese. Just really, he just hasn't had much of a chance. I mean, they just haven't done much with him.
Right.
They just didn't write him well. They didn't put much into him. There's not a lot invested in there, and I just think he's weak in comparison to the comic book version.
Yeah, it's like they just added an action figure to the set.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, I don't know. Yeah, it's just, and the whole relationship with his sister, again, that was, where'd that come from? You know what I mean? Tyrese was on his own with his daughter and his daughter's boyfriend, and he was hard as nails and survivor, so, but anyway.
All right.
Well, we've talked quite a bit, so we don't have much room for news.
Which I'm really surprised about. We talked so much about an episode that I barely have a page of notes on, and normally I've got 2 pages of notes. So,
well, I liked it a lot, and you didn't like it a lot, so that gave us a lot to talk about. So it's good. It's good because I think that this episode, as some of the others have been, I could easily see how it would be divisive for people, and that I think there will be lots of people who like it and lots of people who don't like it. I don't think you're going to be in the middle on this.
Yeah, I don't see many middle of the road.
Yeah, and so I think we are probably consistent with the viewing populace on that. So it's good, because then we get both points of view, and people who felt one way or the other will get some good discourse on it. So
hopefully,
yeah.
All right. So if you agree with us or don't, if you don't agree with us, write into our Gmail or on Facebook and let us know what you thought.
Yeah, at biterspodcast@gmail.com. Or on our Facebook page. Let us know what you thought of the episode. We'd love to hear. You can just tell us your thoughts, or you can put it in your good, better, and bad, or good, bad, and ugly format if you want.
Or write us a haiku. Whatever. However you want to do it.
All right, man.
All right.
Now, what's the next week is called what? Do we know?
Man, we probably do. Hold on, let me pull up my IMDb real quick. This week was Still.
Still. What do you think do you think that was in reference to
the fact that it just stayed in place and didn't go anywhere? Yeah.
Well, maybe.
That's exactly how I took it.
Probably also, obviously, the moonshine still, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that's probably closer to what they're thinking.
Yeah, maybe.
Season 4...
Episode 13.
It's Alone.
And it looks like it's definitely going to be about Team Maggie, although there was some shots of Beth that I saw.
Whoa. We have 4 episodes left.
Oh, my
until
gosh.
the season's over. It's all done. Season 4 is all done March 30th.
Oh, my gosh. This is it.
So, so if people want to, if you want to, we may be starting a Kickstarter campaign here for Kirk's therapy sessions once the show's over. Counteract the withdrawal that he goes through.
Just don't let me have any peach schnapps. Or we'll get out of control. I'll start peeing in the room and shoot crossbows at things.
He's not joking either. I've seen it.
All right. Definitely check out the Facebook page in the next couple of days. I'll try to get up my Team Daryl image. And
if you want to see more of Kirk's artwork, head on over to zgirl.org and check out our comic book, Z-Girl and the 4 Tigers.
Yep.
And I guess that's all we got. We'll see everybody next week.
Yep. Take it easy.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.